All right, I finished writing or rewriting the big opening chapter of Act Two. I had to do a lot of heavy lifting because originally I didn't know that the pacing of all the chapters that come after would be so not slower. Like I knew it would be slower, but I didn't know it would be like heavy emotionally. Like the entire atmosphere of it is much heavier. So chapter that comes before that introduces all of that, I had to rewrite that to prepare for those subsequent chapters. But refilled up on coffee. Hopefully I get back home before it rains again. And I think I'm near a reggae concert, but yeah, here goes. Okay, I am on my way to the store to get batteries because my clippers died a week ago. I'm starting to look a little rough. But I don't know how much writing I'm going to get done today because I have work, I have an appointment for a haircut, and then I have a concert, which is super fun. But here's to hoping. So I've had kind of a rough month physically. Did a lot of fun things, which I don't normally do. I don't normally pack in like a lot of fun events like in one single sprint of days. Had a good time, and then I think I said before in my previous clip that I've been struggling with one specific part of my story, and I don't think it's a coincidence that the part of my story I'm having the most trouble with is, like I said, the beginning of Act Two, which I wrote most of that during NaNoWrimo last year. And maybe it was like a sign of the times. No, separate from the organization, the actual project and task of trying to write 50,000 words in 1 month, there is no coincidence that most of the scenes I'm unsatisfied with happened during that blitz of just writing. Like I said before, most of those scenes, they're not bad. They're economical, like they serve a purpose and then I move forward. But it feels like they could be doing so much more. And I've been struggling trying to figure out how to rearrange those scenes to just give the story more meat because they exist to further characterize the characters I've already introduced and introduce new characters and introduce a new setting and more of a setting that was briefly looked at and kind of give a wider scope of events happening in the world. And I don't know, it's for the most part I was struggling trying to figure out how to do it better. Like it felt like I kept falling into the same grooves in my mind. So I tried rewriting the first opening chapter of Act Two, which is like, oh, we're here. This is official. We're in like this is a setting change. And I literally wrote 4 different versions of that opening chapter, and I just wasn't satisfied. It feels like I had to keep so many oranges in the air. That's not a phrase. Like if you're juggling, for some reason, every time I've thought about juggling, I picture oranges, and I think at least once I used that as a metaphor in my manuscript. It's like there's so many things I have to cover in that chapter to get the ball rolling. And notice I didn't say the orange rolling. And I don't like it. And then it suddenly hit me. I was like, why am I trying to make this chapter like the golden king of all chapters and make it do all this work? I don't know. After looking at those 4 different versions of that chapter, I wasn't finding the best opportunities to bring out the best of all those characters. And then we had the random cold front, and the weather got really weird, and then my brother got sick, and then it passed on to me, then I got really sick. And I'm still on the tail end of whatever that is, which is why I sound different. So I have not been able to actually focus and write. Like the one moment where I was like in between doses of medicine and I was kind of up, and I tried to write, and I stared at my computer screen, and then my eyes just got really heavy, and I was like, and I was gone. I was just gone. But for the most part, I was not able to make much headway. I ended up forcing myself to just write in that chapter as I had it in that fourth version. Jumped into the very next chapter, which is really a transitional kind of chapter, just to give the characters a little bit more breathing room as I introduce the next setting. And then there's the famous train scene. I don't know if I can call the scene famous. If it's famous to me. It's famous to me because it's a scene that I have pictured for so long. So when I finally got to write it, I was like, oh, this is great. And it really just kind of anchors a lot of different concepts, where the characters are at, their different perspectives. And that's one of the scenes I have to go back, re-examine. And I knew that when I wrote it. I just wanted it to exist. But I haven't touched it since. I skipped past that and jumped straight into the next setting after they get off the train. And that is where like something kicked in. So literally I've been struggling to figure out how to rearrange Act 2 to make it better. Once I just got through that opening chapter and just said, just ignore it, come back to it, and focused on what happens after the train, I was able to finally figure out the right arranging order of events and the way to make the characters naturally, organically ask the right questions, reveal the right answers, little sprinkling of flashback. Uh, I can't say that it's great if it's not done yet because I'm still writing it, but I did write like the first scene that's new. And it's weird because it's a new scene, but it's not new to me because it's existed in my head since before I ever got to that point when I first wrote this, the first draft. But for some reason, when I first wrote it last November, I never found a way to work that moment in. And I just thought I'll make it work later or maybe just scrap it. And here I am trying to figure out how to make this act better. And turns out it was working in a moment like that. And then getting rid of moments that feel wasteful. So that's where I'm at now. I wish that I could end this and say, oh, here's what I worked on. Oh, everything turned out great. It really didn't. And my health took a little quick dive briefly. So that slows things down. I really want Captain Crunch. I think that's a good thing. When you start to get your appetite back, that means you're healing. At least I have a plan. So before, I was dealing with a blank page and intense creative block and was coughing up a lung. But now I actually have something to work with. And it's so much better to have a blueprint than to stare at a blank page. So this will probably be October when this hits, but Act 2, here we go.